they're
Yo
gonna
lo voy a
say,
empezar a grabar.
okay, once you're done with your air brake, they're gonna have you go outside and do your walk around. So when you walk around, make sure you take your seatbelt off and grab both handrails, step, and come outside. Okay. You're gonna start from here all the way to the front. Okay. This is my fuel tank. Make sure my fuel tank opens and closes. I should have no cracks, no leaks of diesel. And all my straps are bolted tight and secure. That's my fuel cap. Fuel cap should open and close. I should have a T-chain, should not be missing. I have a rubber seal that should not be torn or missing. My steps, my doors, my windows, I already mentioned inside my air brake inspection on my checklist. But if you want me to explain it again, you explain it to them again. If they ask you yes, make sure my handrails are bolted tight. That should have no oil or grease or debris on my steps. I want to make sure that my door opens and closes. That all my windows should have no cracks. And if I do have a crack, which it is, I'll report that to my school. Now I'm going to move on to my front of the bus. Be using your hands to point and talk. Don't just stand and talk. Point. I'm going to start with my top lights. My clearance lights turn on and off. Should have no cracks, bolted tight. Proper color is amber. If you do the inside checklist first, you're already going to talk about your windshield and wipers inside. If they have you start the outside, then talk about the windshield and wipers out here. Make sure my front windshield should have no cracks. I should have a clear view that the seals are not torn or missing. My wipers should not be cracked or broken, that the blades are not torn or missing. I come to my left signal, my right signal. They're also my 4 ways emergencies. They should turn on and off. Bolted tight, no cracks. I should have no discoloration. Proper color is amber. My headlights, left and right, should turn on and off, high beam and low beam. Bolted tight, no cracks, and no oxidation. They don't talk about the grill at the DMV. They don't talk about the bumper at DMV. But if they should ask you, then you're going to tell them. That's only if they ask you. My grill should be bolted tight, no damages to the grill. This is my bumper, should be bolted tight, should not be cracked, should not be hanging. I'm checking for leaks. We should have no coolant leaks. We should have no oil leaks. We should have no hoses, anything hanging. And we're listening for air leaks. Once you finish here, you're going to tell the examiner, I'm going to go to my engine compartment on the passenger side. The way you open it, put your hand here, here, boom. This is my coolant reservoir for my wipers. I should have no cracks or leaks, bolted tight. If I need to add coolant, I would add it here. That all the hoses are not cracked or leaking. Clamps are properly tight and secure. This is my alternator. Alternator should not be loose. It should be bolted tight, no cracks. I should have no exposed wires. It is belt driven. The belt should have no cracks or tears and no more than 3/4 of play. My water pump. Water pump should have no cracks, no leaks. All my bolts are bolted tight. That all my hoses should have no cracks or no leaks. That all the clamps are properly tight and not missing. My water pump is also belt driven. I should have no tears, no cracks, and no more than 3/4 of play. Once you finish here, you're going to tell the examiner, I'm going to go to the driver's side. Talk with your hands only, okay? You want to come over here? Come around. Okay. The other side was your window washer reservoir. This is your coolant. My coolant, I'm gonna start from here and work myself here, here, and that way. This is my coolant. I should have no cracks or leaks. All my bolts are bolted tight. This is where I check my level. If I need to add coolant, I would add it on top that the cap's not missing. All my hoses, all the hoses should have no cracks, no leaks, and all my bolts and clamps are properly tight and secured. This is my engine oil. What I'll do is I'll take the dipstick out, I would clean it. If I need to add oil, I would add it here. My compressor and governor. Compressor and governor, it is gear driven. Compressor and governor should have no cracks, no leaks, bolted tight, that all my hoses should have no cracks, no leaks, and they're all bolted tight and secure. This is my power steering reservoir. I should have no cracks, no leaks, should be bolted tight and secure. This is where I check the level. If I need to add power steering, I would add it here, that the cap's not missing. That the hoses should have no cracks, no leaks, that the clamps are properly tight and secure. This is my steering box. It is gear driven. I should have no cracks, no leaks, that all my bolts are bolted tight. That all my hoses should have no cracks, no leaks, that the clamps are properly tight. Now I come to my steering linkages. These are my steering linkages. Okay. This is my pitman arm. This is my drag link. And this is my knuckle. Okay. My pitman arm, steering linkage, and knuckle, they should have no cracks or legal welds. That all my bolts are bolted tight and secure. That all my bushings are not torn or missing. These are my castle nuts. All my castle nuts should not be tight, should not be missing. It should be bolted tight. All my cotter pins should not be cracked, broken, or missing. Suspension, brakes, tires. You can mention the frame too. No cracks or no legal welds on my frame. My suspension. This is my spring mount. Spring mount should have no cracks or legal welds. That all my bolts are bolted tight. That the bushings are not torn or missing. These are my leaf springs. Bolted tight. No cracks, no legal welds, and no swing. These are my U-bolts. U-bolts are bolted tight, not cracked, not missing. That's my shock absorber. No cracks, no leaks, bolted tight, bushings are not torn or missing. Now we come to our service brakes. These are brakes. Start from the hose. Okay, I come to my brakes. My hoses should have no cracks or leaks, bolted tight. This is my brake chamber. No cracks and no leaks. That my clamp and bolts are bolted tight and secure. Push rod should have no more than 1 inch play. Slack adjuster should be at a 90-degree angle to the push rod, bolted tight with no cracks. Brake shoes. I should have no less of quarter liner left. Brake drum. No oil, grease, or discoloration. Tires. These front tires are not permitted to be recapped. The depth is what?
432.
432s. The condition of my tires, no cuts, bubble, and nails in either side. The inflation of my tires is 90 to 105 or manufacturer recommended. If the examiner asks you how you would check your inflation, you're going to tell them, I will use a commercial air gauge if they ask you.
Okay.
This is my rim. No cracks or legal welds. My valve stem should not be touching the rim or leaking air. All my lug nuts, bolted tight. They should not be missing with no rust behind it. If they ask you why is there rust, indication that they're loose. Hub oil, no cracks, no leaks. All my bolts are bolted tight and secure. This is where I check my hub oil. This is where I add it. Splash guard. Not touching the tire, not touching the ground, no cracks, bolted tight. My mirrors, I already mentioned inside. My windows. My lights. My top lights turn on and off. No cracks. Bolted tight. Proper color is amber. All my windows, I already mentioned it inside. My side wall should have no damages, no rivets missing. Then all my reflectors should not be missing. This is my fuse box. I already mentioned inside, but I should have spares. They don't talk about the battery box at the DMV, but if they should ask you, you're gonna know where it's at, in here. If they ask you, well, talk about it. Well, the battery box should be bolted tight, no battery leaks, that all my cables should not be exposed, and it should be at a max level. My frame, no cracks or legal welds. My drive shaft should have no cracks or legal welds, bolted tight. Also my universal joints, well greased, bolted tight, and no cracks. My exhaust should be bolted tight, no cracks, no leaks. And they ask you what kind of leaks, it's called soot. Suspension, brakes, and tires. Suspension, brakes, and tires. Suspension, brakes, and tires. Since the brakes are in front of the suspension, first I'm going to talk about the brakes, the suspension, and I work myself to the tires. My brakes, I have two hoses. Service and emergency. No cracks and no leaks in my hoses, bolted tight. My brake chambers, I'm not saying chamber, I'm saying chambers because we got two.
Chambers.
Okay, we got two, 1, 2. It's like we're talking about the other side already. So might as well talk about everything. It's like you're talking about the other side. Here, in the end, you'll find out. My brake chambers should have no cracks, no leaks of air. That the clamps and bolts are bolted tight and secure. Push rod, no more than 1 to 2 inch plate. Slack adjuster should be at a 90-degree angle to the push rod. No cracks, bolted tight. Brake shoes, no less quarter liner left. Brake drums, we got 2 drums. Brake drums, no oil, grease, or discoloration. My suspension, my spring mount should have no cracks, no legal welds, bolted tight. That the bushings also not missing, not torn on my leaf springs. My leaf springs should have no cracks or legal welds and no swing. My shock absorber, no cracks or leaks, bolted tight, that the bushings are not missing. My U-bolts should not be cracked, they should not be missing, they should be bolted tight. My suspension has a torque arm. My torque arm should have no cracks and no illegal welds, bolted tight. Tires. Now I have 2 sets of tires. These tires are permitted to be recapped. Condition of my tires, no cuts, bubbles, or nails. The inflation of my tires is 90 to 105 or manufacturer recommended. If the examiner should ask you how you check it, you would tell them I would check it with the commercial air gauge. The inflation, the depth of my tires is what? 232. There you go, 232. And by showing them, don't just stand and go like this. My tires should be 232. Okay, you also do. My tires should not be recapped. It's because you're using your hands to talk. Don't just stand there and just point at it. No more than a 4-inch gap between my tires and rims, and I should have no debris between my tires and rims. Debris means trash. I have 2 rims and 2 valve stems. My valve stems should not be touching the rims or leaking any air. My rim should not be cracked and no legal welds. Excuse me. All my lug nuts bolted tight. They should not be missing with no rust, indication of looseness. My axle, you got hub and you got axle. No cracks, no leaks. All my bolts are bolted tight and secure. Mud flap, not touching the tire, not touching the ground, no cracks or damages, bolted tight. Once you finish here, you move back to the bus. My top lights, work yourself from top to bottom. Don't go through here, don't go here, don't be jumping around. Work yourself down. I'm gonna start with my lights on top, turn on and off. No cracks, proper color is red. All my windows, I already mentioned inside. This is my emergency exit. I already mentioned inside. Would you like to repeat it again? If they say yes, all my windows should have no cracks. And if there is, I'll report it to school. All my seals are not torn or missing. That my doors should open and close. All my reflectors should not be missing. My left signal, my right signal turns on and off. They're also my four ways, bolted tight, no cracks, proper color is amber. My night lights, brake lights, turn on and off. Bolted tight, no cracks, proper color is red. These are my backup lights. Turn on and off. No cracks, bolted tight, and it has a clear lens. My exhaust, I already mentioned my exhaust, but would you like to mention again? They might say yes, they might say no, but if they say yes, my exhaust should be bolted tight, no cracks, no leaks, and they ask you what kind of leaks, it's called soot. Once you finish here, they might stop you, you say good job. They might say you're done. But if they ask you, about over here, you're gonna tell them about your pension check. Well, the same way I check my driver's side, I would check it on the passenger side. There's no difference.